just want to issue a disclaimer right at the beginning. This is not intended to be a deep dive into Soundarya Lahari because there are people here and online who are much more scholarly and adept to take on a topic like this. This is, as I was telling a friend a few hours ago, I'm not a scholar. I'm just like a bee that's meandering in this entire lotus pond that is Soundarya Lahari. So with that humble invitation to forego any mistakes that I might make during the process of this exploration, I also invite you to look at Soundarya Lahari in a little bit of a different way. Because the trick with Adi Shankara's works is that most of them can be extremely intellectually very, very stimulating. There's so much mental matter that they give. But at the same time, Shankara's works also hit the heart directly. And there's something about the titles itself that Shankara uses. If you look at the most popular thing just at the top of our heads, if we had to think of one of his more tune-based shlokams, it would be something like the Bhaja Govindam. Bhaja Govindam is not the name of the stotram. It is only MS's amazing tuning that has made it so soft and such a gentle tune. But in that he's saying, you fool, if you're not going to do stuti to Govinda, then nothing is going to save you. So in fact, the stotram is actually called as the Moha Mudgara Stotram. It is that which hits Moha, the sense of identity or the sense of identification with the being, with the body. The stotram is intended to wake you up from that. Shankara's titles are already indicative of what is happening inside. If you look at his most iconic composition on Narasimha, which is called as the Lakshmi Narasimha Karavalamba Stotram, the word itself is indicating what he wants over there. Karavalambam, every verse ends there with the words Lakshmi Narasimha Mamadehi Karavalambam. Oh Lakshmi Narasimha, pick me up. The entire idea there is about somebody who is dying in samsara. It is not about somebody who is struggling with a physical difficulty. It is about somebody who is struggling with this entire idea of birth and rebirth and the exhaustion of this entire endless samsara. So the title is communicating something. That is why if you look at it, just the title of this, that is why when we were actually putting together a title, I wondered, what does one call Soundarya Lahari and why does it need another title? Soundarya Lahari in itself is the most apt title for this because the word Soundaryam, if you look at it, is often translated as beauty, and many people believe that this is Shankara's depiction of the goddess's physical beauty. While that is not wrong, it would be unfair to say that that's where it stops. Because the second we limit somebody's view of the goddess to just her physical beauty, there wouldn't be anything to justify why Soundarya Lahari is where it is in terms of the placement of Shakta texts. Because that one text alone has immense capabilities just in terms of how it sounds. There is a lot of intellectual debate of did Shankara write it, did others write it. But I think I just want to say one sentence in this regard, irrespective of who wrote it, irrespective of what has been interpolated, irrespective of what is in the original, it is an amazing piece of work. It is not just an intellectual masterpiece. It is not something that just has good poetry. It has about 9 kinds of beauties about the goddess. It has her Tattva Soundaryam, the beauty of her essence. It has her Rupa Soundaryam, where it describes the form. It has her Mahima Soundaryam, where her Leelas are described. It has her Guna Soundaryam, her qualities. And in each of these, when Shankara packs them in, the structuring is so unique that before you realize you're on one theme, you automatically move to the next. There's a very popular story that is associated with Soundarya Lahari, which many of you already probably know, which is that when Adi Shankara visited Kailasa through his Tapas Shakti, he goes with his astral body and he visits Kailasa, and Parameshwara gives him 4 lingas, 4 Spatika lingas. These 4 lingas he's taking, and as he takes them, Parvati is watching Shiva give Shankara these lingas. And she says to herself, my husband is giving this boy something. I also feel obliged to give him something. I want to give him something. So she takes out a book and she gives it to him. And Shankara takes this and he starts his descent back to Bharatavarsha. When he's coming at the base of the mountain, he comes across Nandi. And when Nandishwara sees him, Nandishwara does an airport scan and he says, show me what you have. What are you coming back with? And as soon as he does that, Shankara presents the lingas and the book. So Nandi approves of the lingas and he says, okay, go take it. And I know what you have to do. You have to go and establish them in 4 pithas. Many of you already know that if you go to any of the 4 pithas, these are the Chandramaulishwaras that are worshipped every day on a daily basis over there. Nandi's eyes fall on the book and he said, what is this? So he looks at it, says, you can't take this. So Shankara is in a dilemma now because Jagannatha has given it on one hand, but at the same time, Nandikeshwara is not giving. And Jagannatha is called as Nandi Vidya Nateshwari. Nandi is not a doorkeeper at Shiva's residence. Nandi is the one, he is one of the Upasakas. In fact, in the Sri Vidya Sampradayam, there is one branch called as the Nandi Vidya, which is given to us entirely by Nandikeshwara. So some of the texts and some of the rahasyams of Devi are given to us by Nandikeshwara. So he has a strong understanding of who Devi is, and he says the world is not ready for this, so I'm not going to give it to you. So Shankara goes back into his dhyanam. Shankara knows one thing, even if I don't know what to do, I just have to think of her, she will give me the solution. So she says, Shankara, there is nothing to worry. He just closes his eyes and thinks of her, and she says, there's nothing to worry, Shankara. Nandi is going to tear half the book and give it to you. Take that half the book with you and go and rewrite the rest. So Nandikeshwara supposedly tears the book at the end of the 40th shloka, or the 41st shloka in some versions, and the remaining shlokas up till 100, Shankaracharya writes. This is a very popular story that covers Soundarya Lahari. Now a lot of people again get into intellectualizing how could this really happen? Isn't this all mythology, so to speak? But I think the objective of the story is something else. If you look at the structure of the Soundarya Lahari as a whole, the first 40 shlokas are so esoteric in their overall appearance and approach that you cannot understand them without the help of at least 13 allied texts with each. So that is, if you take a singular shlokam, you need to have at least the Rudrayamala next to you. You need to have portions of Itihasas and Puranas to be able to understand what is he referring to. Because this is not a work where you can just translate word by word and you'll understand Shankara's works. If you see the next about 50 odd shlokams, that is leading to the 100th shlokam, the culmination ones, you'll see a very different flavor over there. So today is an attempt not to just pick up some gems, but try to give some sort of structure to understand how did Shankara engage with the goddess. Because if you look at the structure of the Soundarya Lahari, there is a very direct and a very beautiful flow of its own. But to do justice to something like that, one session is certainly not enough. 9 sessions are certainly not enough. We could probably spend a year on Soundarya Lahari if we just pick shlokam by shlokam. So today, what we will do is, we will just look at some shlokas of this amazing work from 2 angles. We will look at the swarupams, the forms of Devi that Shankara saw when he was writing this and that he spoke about here. And we will look at the swabhava of Devi. How did he view her characters? How did he engage with the goddess? What is his fondness for the mother goddess that he writes not 1, not 2, but 100 verses on her? So I think when we talk about the swabhava, typically if I had to approach this in a linear fashion, we would have begun this entire session with the very first shlokam of the Soundarya Lahari. But we will come there a little later, but I think I just want to mention one thing in this regard that I've said on countless occasions before. If you look at the growth of a poet, of somebody in the literary line, if you take their first work and then you take their work which comes after years of their journey, you will see a marked difference because they would have gone through maturity, they would have gone through a host of their own internal processes. But if you take Shankara's very first recorded work, which as you all know is the Kanakadhara Stotram, if you take the Kanakadhara Stotram and you take the Soundarya Lahari, they both begin with identical ideas. Soundarya Lahari begins with the word Shiva Shaktya Yukto. Kanakadhara begins with the words Angam Harehe Pulaka Bhushanam Ashrayanti. Shiva Shakti, he refers to Shiva and Shakti in the first verse. He refers to Vishnu and Lakshmi. Angam Harehe, the one who is on Hari's body. So Lakshmi and Vishnu get referred there, Shiva and Shakti get referred here. Why he makes that phenomenal combination, we will explore a little bit later, but we will not be beginning with the first shlokam today. There is a big question in Shankara's Soundarya Lahari as to where did he write this book? Was it which kshetra? Because several kshetras claim that Soundarya Lahari was written there. For example, if you go to Kollur, where Mukambika kshetra is, there is a mandapam where there is even a board that says Adi Shankaracharya composed Soundarya Lahari over here. If you go to Chidambaram, in Shivakami shrine, so there is a Taniya Kovil for Ambal over there. In the separate shrine for Shivakami, when you are doing the Pradakshinam, this will come on the Pradakshina Patha, a few steps will lead you to a shrine where there is a Sri Chakram that is carved on the wall, and next to that there is a statue of Shankaracharya. The priests will tell you over there that that's where Soundarya Lahari was written. So if you look at it from any perspective, that also makes sense because the shrine is that of Shiva Kama Sundari, and this is Soundarya Lahari. So there is the idea of some beauty being reflected over there. But Shankara probably gave, I think, he gave the biggest hints as to where he was talking about when he wrote about this, which goddess he was referring to, and that comes in the very first part. And that shlokam is probably, in some senses, it contains the essence of Soundarya Lahari, because over there, he does not see a goddess who is enshrined somewhere in one temple. He sees a goddess who is living, breathing, and moving, and he indicates that in the most unusual of ways. Normally, if you had to talk about a god who is breathing, you would describe their breath. You would talk about the movement of their prana. Shankara doesn't do that. That's what makes Shankara what he is. He begins the shloka with the words Kwanat Kanchi Dama, the one who is wearing an anklet, wearing a waistband, Kwanat Kanchi. But Kanchi alone suggests a waistband. That Kwanat refers to the movement. He says this waistband is filled with 51 bells, supposed to be the 51, representing the 51 aksharas. These 51 bells are constantly moving. This is what he said. Kwanat kanchi dama karikalabha kumbhas tananatam parikshina madhe parinata sharat chandra vadanam. The one whose face is glowing like the autumn moon. We are in Sharad Ritu. Today is the first day of Sharad Ritu. In Sharad Ritu, both these moons are considered to be, every poet has romanticized the Sharad Chandra because it is the autumn moon where the moon does not have clouds. In Varsha Ritu, nobody talks about Varsha Chandra. It is Sharad Chandra because the clouds, all of these clouds have vanished. And it is now that Amrita Bindus are supposed to flow from the face of the moon. So that is how Shankara sees Devi, that from her face, I'm feeling a flow of Amrita. When he talks about Sharad Chandra, so then he says, Dhanur Pasham Srunupapi Dadhanam Karatalehi, that the one who is holding a sugarcane bow, 5 flower arrows, the Pasham and the Ankusham, may her face and may her form come to me. Now, very automatically you all know, without even thinking, just a brief description of this form and you know where we've been taken to Kanchipuram straight. But this is Kanchi Kamakshi. The Swarupam that he is talking about, irrespective of where he has written it, the first Swarupam that is introduced, this is the 7th shloka of the Soundarya Lahari. Up till now there is no description of the form. Up till now it is just about how the power of the goddess. But the first form that he introduces comes over here. And this Kwanat Kanchi is where Shankaracharya's Rahasyam is as to why he titles it as Soundarya Lahari. The idea of Lahari is a flow. Laharam, or whether it is Lahari, whether it is Dhara, they talk about a flow that does not stop. It's not something that briefly flows, then there is a pause, then it resumes again. It is constantly flowing. For Shankaracharya, that's how he views consciousness, that it is constantly flowing. It is a pravaham. That pravaham is not only physically beautiful to look at, that pravaham is sustaining everything else. And that pravaham is the source of life. For him, when he sees the goddess, he does not see a vigraham, he does not see somebody who is seated and is not moving. He sees that Chaitanya Pravaham, he sees a flow of consciousness, and that is why the bells are moving. Because from that consciousness within her, every anklet, every single ornament on her being is shaking with that consciousness. That is also Shankara's beautiful way of bringing the idea of dhyanam into practice. When we do dhyanam of any devata, it is advised to do dhyanam in such a way that you can feel that devata moving. It is not just that devata being static. For example, if you talk about Ganapati, Ganapati is called as Shurpakarna, large ears. But the entire description of that word Shurpakarna means one who is moving those large ears. So when you do dhyanam of Ganapati, you're supposed to imagine Ganapati moving those ears. And there have been people as recent as a few years ago who have written their experiences saying, when I do dhyanam of Ganapati like that, I feel wind blowing across my face. That is the proximity and that is the intimacy with which dhyanam happens. Dhyanam is not just, oh yeah, something in Kanchipuram apart from Kanjivaram saris. It is that massive fascination that, oh, if I see her, I can hear sound. And this happens to bhaktas, that knowingly or unknowingly, they get pulled closer to that. And that is why that word Kwanat Kanchi Dama comes over there. He also says something very beautiful over here, which I will leave as a string now that we will tie up later. He says, Puramathitu Aho Purushika. You are the one who belongs to Purusha and who Purusha calls as his self. Puramathitu Aho Purushika. You are the Ahankaram of Paramapurusha. Ahankaram is not arrogance in this context. Ahankaram is the idea of I. It is that first manifestation from Shiva that he touches upon, but we'll come there a little bit later. Shankara's beautiful formation, if he's describing the goddess over here, he has hinted at the kshetra by saying Kwanat Kanchi. He has just put Kanchi as a hint over there. But if it had to stop over here, if he wanted us to stop at Kanchipuram, he would have stopped there, but he didn't. The very next shlokam gives you the address of the goddess, and Shankara is such a visual poet that address gives you an aerial view of her residence, something that no drone can possibly do. It gives you a complete form of how do you look at this residence of the goddess from above. And that is only possible when you're moving with a non-physical body, when you're moving with some sort of astral body. This idea of her address is communicated in the very, very beautiful words that says, Sudha Sindhor Madhye. So this is what I want you all to imagine, that in the center of an ocean of amritam, of nectar, Sudha Sindhor Madhye, Suravitapi Vati Parivrite. There is an island. So this is Shankara's genius, right? If he has to describe an island, he should talk about the land first. But he's giving you an aerial view, because when you see from above, you will first see the water, then you will see the trees. So he's describing the trees first. He's not named the island yet. He says, Suravitapi Vati Parivrite, that it is covered with beautiful, wish-fulfilling trees. Suravitapi Vati Parivrite. Then you zoom in and you will see that it is an island. And it is a Dweepa. Dweepa is the Sanskritam word for island. What kind of a Dweepa is it? It is an island where every single speck of sand is made up of gems. So it is called as a Manidweepa. Manidweepe Nipopa Vanavati. In that Manidweepa, there is a special enclosure of Kadamba trees. Nipa is Kadamba. Nipopa Vanavati. Within that Kadamba enclosure, so this is now you're literally zooming in layer by layer. First, there is a Sudha Sagaram. Then there are about 19 layers within the Manidweepam. In that Manidweepam, there is a Kadamba Vanam. In the center of that Kadamba Vanam, as you go closer, Nipopa Vanavati Chintamani Gruhe. There is a house of Chintamani. This is not the ICICI Bank Chintamani of no Chinta, only money. Chintamani is said to be those stones, those gems where their presence is enough to take care of every Chintitatha Phaladam, where anything that you think of materializes. Anything that you think of materializing is the idea of Sankalpam. It is the idea of this is that place where a thought gets converted into a reality. So this is the idea of that residence from where any thought that originates in this world comes from one central source. And that is the Chintamani Gruhe. And over there he describes the goddess. The goddess that Shankara describes there is not seen anywhere. Her entire presence, she's not seen at the door also, guys, so you can keep your eyes on this side. Her entire presence is it radiates so much of light and tattvam that the goddess can at best be described. And there are two people who describe this goddess that they saw in the middle of Chintamani Gruham. One is Shankara, one is Vyasa. Because it is only people who are that connected. That is why we have a very beautiful shlokam that says, Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam. That Shankara, that is Paramashiva himself came as Adi Shankara, and Narayana himself came as Vyasa. Because if you look at Devi, and we are in Navaratri, so there cannot be a better time to talk about this. All of you are familiar with the Lalita Sahasranamam. Who gave the Lalita Sahasranamam to Agastya? You don't have to look so blankly. I know you know the answer. Hayagriva gave it. Hayagriva is Narayana's Guru Swarupam. Dakshinamurti is the one who writes down the entire Srividya Upasana, the entire idea, the school of thought of Srividya is written down by Dakshinamurti. Hayagriva, Dakshinamurti. Hari, Hara. That Hari Hara only becomes Shankara and Vyasa, and they are the ones, it is Devi Bhagavatam where we find the Manidweepa Varnana. It is then after Manidweepa Varnana, it is Soundarya Lahari where it is described like this. Over there he says, after he says Chinta Mani Gruhe, he says, upon a bed she is seated. How does that bed look? Shiva Kare Manche. Shiva himself is the bed over there. Sada Shiva is the bed. Shiva Kare Manche Parama Shiva Paryanka Nilaya. That on the mattress that is Shiva. So there is an auspicious bed, an auspicious massive throne. It's not fair to call it a bed. It is an auspicious throne. On that, Paramashiva is lying down. On top of that Paramashiva, she is seated. Shiva Kare Manche Paramashiva Paryanka Nilayam Bhajanti Tvam Dhanyaha Katijana Chidananda Lahari. Those people who see her like that are blessed, because once you see this form, there is no one left to see in this world. This is the idea of Shankara's Dhyanam. If you see Shankara's Dhyanam of the goddess over here, he mentions but does not mention a very significant detail when we describe Manidweepa. So as many of you would know, there is a very, in temple rituals, you're all familiar with the idea of a curtain that keeps, a veil that keeps appearing and constantly disappearing, right? This veil is also present in Manidweepa. The only difference is, in Manidweepam, it's not present in front of the goddess. It is present behind the goddess, and it is called as the Maya Yavanika. That Maya Yavanika, whenever she is holding court, she occasionally, when somebody asks her a question, they'll say, Amma, what is the need of this body? What is the need of this? Everything is Atma. No? She will just veil and unveil the curtain. Suddenly that person won't be here. He'll be downstairs in earth thinking about how do I save up enough for my son's graduation and this. That is Maya Yavanika. The reason it is placed behind her is because it has no effect on her, but it is in her control. Shankara does not mention Maya Yavanika. This is the one shlokam where he completely omits it, because his idea is he's already saying if you're blessed enough to see her, you have crossed Maya. There is absolutely no fear of it. So this is Shankara's reassurance to a bhakta. That Shankara also wrote works at a time when there was so much of intellectual authority over subjects saying, oh, Maya is this, Vedanta is this, all of these subjects operate in these ways. Shankara's heart, Shankara's hridayam is, how do you take a bhakta from wherever they are, whatever their circumstances, and put them at the feet. Put them at the feet of Devi, it's called Soundarya Lahari. Put them at the feet of Shiva, it's called Shivananda Lahari. Names are changing, but that idea is the same. So for him, he's saying, just see her once. You don't need to worry about anything else. This is what he says in the Bhajagovindam as well. Shreyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyayam Shripati Rupa Machasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chitam. Just once. Just think of him once. And then at that point, Yama's Dutas will not come for you. That confidence can only come from somebody who is in Swanubhava. So this is the first Swarupam that he gives you. takes you from Kanchipuram, and then takes you and places you straight into Manidweepa. These two shlokams are considered to be the Dhyana shlokams of Soundarya Lahari. There are different versions as to what is the Dhyana shlokam. So as you would all know, many stotrams come with a Dhyana shlokam, that they give you a form to reflect upon before that stotram begins. Kanakadhara stotram does not have a Dhyana shlokam. I learned yesterday that Soundarya Lahari has a very interesting Dhyana shlokam that is ascribed to it. But as per the commentaries on Soundarya Lahari, it is the 7th and the 8th shlokam that give you an idea of the Devi's form and then allow you. So where is the Dhyana shlokam in Kanakadhara Stotram? We'll take that up a little bit later, because today we are trying to stay in Soundarya Lahari for as much as she will let us stay there. So this is the first Swarupam that he gives. As the Stotram builds on, Shankara's fascination is not just for one goddess. If Shankara was tied to one god or one goddess, he wouldn't have done what he did for Sanatana Dharma today. What he did was, he said there are 6 different branches of the same truth. That same truth is Parabrahma. You call that branch as Muruga, you call that branch as Shiva, you call that branch as Shakti, as Vishnu, as Surya, whatever you want to call it, you call it, but they all lead to that same root, that same Moolam, that is Paramatma. So if he talks about Kamakshi, he knows that immediately there will be another group that says, oh, what about Meenakshi? Why is she not here? Why is this goddess not here? His idea is so expansive that you will see a host of goddesses coming in here. Some goddesses that we are not even that familiar with, some that we are more familiar with. And one such goddess that we are all familiar with, who is going to make her appearance in a few days in this, on Mula Nakshatram day, is the goddess of learning. And Shankara speaks about her so beautifully. As opposed to just addressing Saraswati, the words that he uses, Sharad Jyotsnam Shuddham Shashiyuta Jata Juta Makutam. Sharad Jyotsnam, again Sharat Kala Purnima. The way Sharat Kala Purnima looks, you are glowing with that whiteness. You're all automatically thinking of an entirely white form. Sharad Jyotsnam Shuddham Shashiyuta Jata Juta Makutam, the one who has Shashi on her matted locks. Now this is an interesting detail, because we assume Shiva has Shashi Shekhara, but Shiva's sister is Saraswati. Shivanuja is one of the names of Saraswati. Saraswati also has the moon on her. That is why if you see Shyamala Devi, the tantric form of Saraswati, she also has the Chandralekha for the same reason, because they are both brother and sister in this form. Shashiyuta Jata Juta Makutam Varatra Satrana Spatika Ghatika Pustaka Karam. He's giving you a form now. Spatika, she's holding a Spatika Mala. Not for an Instagram photo, but because she's reminding us about the idea of Aksharam of Japam. Spatika Ghatika, the one who is holding a Sudha Kumbham, that pot, as you see Sharada Devi in Sringeri having the same pot, that is a pot of Amritam. Spatika Ghatika Pustaka Karam, the one who is holding a book. This idea, he says, whoever sees you like this, for even once in their lives, will their words not be sweeter than draksha? Will their words not be sweeter than honey? This is the idea of Saraswati Upasana, of Vidya Upasana that he introduces. That you think of Saraswati, what comes out from you will naturally be sweeter. This is the idea of Vagdevata Aradhana that he introduces. But Shankara, being Shankara, doesn't stop with just this form of Saraswati. So Saraswati, interestingly, we all assume Saraswati to be white, and Shankara also indicated this by saying Sharad Jyotsnam very clearly over here. But there are 5 colors that Saraswati is predominantly associated with. The most common one for us is white. Saraswati is also associated with the color blue. There is a form of the goddess called as Neela Saraswati. Neela Saraswati also finds a mention in Soundarya Lahari. Neela Saraswati is what translates in modern day language to Tara Devi. Tara Devi is the one who is adopted into Buddhism as well. The same Tara Devi is Neela Saraswati. There is also a Saraswati Swarupam called as Suvarna Saraswati. Saraswati who is golden. And there is a Saraswati that is Marakata Saraswati. Marakata Saraswati is the emerald hued goddess. Emerald hued goddess Saraswati, green color, is none other than Shyamala Devi. And the 5th Swarupam of Saraswati is this Swarupam, which finds a mention in one text, one singular text that is probably one of the most obsolete texts to find, talks about this Swarupam. And this is what Shankara does. He takes this complicated text where unless you know what is being said and unless you can decode that, no one even knows that this form of the goddess exists. But he takes this and he puts it into the very next verse, and he describes a form of the goddess that is called as Aruna Saraswati. This is Saraswati who is a mixture of red and white. And this form of Saraswati is said to be so powerful that anybody who meditates on this form has such comfort with the words that come out of their mouth, and those words will only bring auspiciousness to other people. So this is a shlokam that is capable of giving Vak Siddhi. In fact, these 3 shlokams, Sharad Jyotsnam, the next 2 shlokams right after this, I think the number is 14, 15, 16, and I beg your pardon if I'm not exact with that, but if you have the text, you can cross-verify. These 3 shlokas are said to be so powerful that they're capable of removing Vak doshas. Vak doshas are said to be those doshas that we accrue just by uttering nonsense for most of the time. When we just say things loosely, when we are engaged with samsara, we say all kinds of things. What happens with such speaking is that the vak, the speech, loses its power because speech has an innate power in it. To regain that power and to ensure that a speech actually manifests. So if our idea is to bless somebody and hope that that blessing comes true, for that vak siddhi is required. For that vak dosha must be removed. For that vak dosha removal, such shlokas come in very, very handy. And the next shloka that talks about that, that says, Kavindranam chetaha kamalavana balata paruchim bhajante ye santa katichit arunameva bhavati virinchi preyasyaha tarunatara shringara lahari gabhirabhi vagbhi vidatati satam ranjanamami. Those people who think of you as Sakalam Arunabham, the one who is completely in red color. Now this is where, it's a very interesting shloka because he uses a poetic metaphor over here. He does not describe the goddess as Aruna Saraswati, but you have to infer that the goddess being spoken about here is Aruna Saraswati. Aruna Saraswati is a unique combination of Kanchi Kamakshi, the first 4 hands. So she has 8 hands. The first 4 hands that you see are Kanchi Kamakshi's hands. That is, she is holding the sugarcane bow, the 5 flower arrows, the pasha and the ankusha. Behind her, she is holding, that is in the remaining 4 hands at the back, she holds the veena, she holds the spatikamala, she holds the pustaka, and she holds the abhayamudra. This form of Devi, that is a combination of Kamakshi and Saraswati, is known as Aruna Saraswati. So Shankara says, those who think of you in red color, O Saraswati, they will never have any vak doshas, and vak will flow from them so effortlessly as it flows from you when you are looking at Brahmadeva. Because when Shankara sees Saraswati, he sees Saraswati who is in love with Brahma. So he sees that love and he says, as effortlessly as that love happens, because the love between 2 lovers is always effortless. There is no energy that is required for that. And that idea gets communicated when he talks about 2 gods who we don't typically associate with love. For us, love story only means Radha Krishna and some terrible version of it when it's playing on TV. But beyond that, the idea of love is not restricted to one form of deities alone. Any form. Wherever there is Paramatma, wherever there is Shakti, there is automatically love. There is some love that he just refers here. And this is his Swarupam, the second one that he introduces. So from Kanchi Kamakshi, from Manidweepam, we go into the idea of Shweta Saraswati. From Shweta Saraswati, we come to the idea of Aruna Saraswati. These are just some goddesses that he talks about. But if Shankara had to leave us with this, we'll think, oh, Soundarya Lahari is referring to Saraswati or it is referring to Kamakshi. It is just contained to these gods alone. But if it were just contained to these gods, Shankara wouldn't leave us with, towards the end, and this is Shankara's genius, right? When he builds up the Swabhavam of Devi, he takes you to so many kshetras in Soundarya Lahari that you'll say, oh, I see Meenakshi here. Oh, I see Annapurna being spoken about here. But towards the end, he gives one shloka that says, you are the same one who is seated there along with Brahmadeva. You are the same one. Gira Mahur Devim Druhina Gruhinim Agama Vidhav. The Agama Shastras say, O Jagannatha, that you are the same one who was with Brahma, Gira Mahur Devim Druhina Gruhinim. You are in his house, Agama Vidhavu. And for in Vaikuntham, in the Kshira Sagaram, Harehe Patnim Padmam, along with Hari. Look at Shankara's beauty of words. He calls her Padma. He doesn't hesitate to refer to her with a word that is so deeply intimate that it just immediately brings you closer to the goddess. Harehe Patnim Padmam, Hara Sahacharim Adritanayam. Harehe Patnim. So first comes Brahmadeva. Then you are the same goddess that goes there in Vaikuntha and is there as Padma Mahalakshmi with him. And then where? Hari Sahacharim Adritanayam. Hara Sahacharim. You are the one who is moving with Shiva. Sahacharim. You are walking with Shiva. Shiva is all about movement. Tandavam is all about his entire movement. So when he moves, she is the only one who is capable to match that move at every pace that he makes. She makes it equally. That is why she's called as Nateshwari, because she can dance as perfectly as Nataraja. He got all the credit in Chidambaram, but she's absolutely no less. Hara Sahacharim Adritanayam. You are the daughter of the mountains. So then is she Brahma Patni Saraswati? Is she Vishnu Patni Lakshmi? Is she Shiva Patni Parvati? This is a question that automatically will come. But he puts it in the next line. He says, you may be these 3. You are taking form as these 3. But you are not these 3 alone. Turiyam Kapitwam. You are the 4th state, Amma. You are Kapi. Kapi is not what we drink at 4 o'clock in the evening. Kapi is not just a ragam. Kapi is that state which is beyond Varnana. It is called the Turiya Avastha. Turiyam Kapitwam Duradhigama Nissima Mahima. Your power and your Mahima you cannot bind it and say, this is all you are. Duradhigama Nissima Mahima. Then who are you? If you look at Shankara's Soundarya Lahari as a question answer, every line will have a question, the next line will have the answer. Duradhigama Nissima Mahima. Okay, your Mahima has no boundaries. Then who are you? And what is that Mahima? Duradhigama Nissima Mahima Mahamayam Vishwam Brahmayasi Parabrahma Mahishi. You are Mahamaya that belongs to that Paramatma, and nobody can surpass that law. This is the idea that comes as one of the strongest conglomerations of Shakta Upasana. Across the country, different branches of Shakti Aradhana have come. But one constant idea throughout all of them is, if she decides, nothing changes, because that Maya is so powerful. This is exactly what the Chandi Saptashati also says. It says, Jnani Nam Api Chetamsi Devi Bhagavati Hisa. If somebody says, yes, I am a Jnani, she will look down from Manidweepa and say, oh, is it? Okay, 1 minute, and that's it. She will put this, Jnani Nam Api Chetamsi Devi Bhagavati Hisa Balad Akrushya Mohaya Mahamaya Prayachati. She will take this most powerful weapon called Moha and throw you into samsaram so hard that you will not even know what has hit you. When does she do this? When you declare that I am a Jnani. So it's better not to declare. That is why he says, Mahamayam Vishwam Brahmayasi Parabrahma Mahishi. You are that Mahamaya. There is no arguing in front of you. There is no contesting your power. And what Shankara says over here, what he says as presumably at the age of 25, 30, because Shankara's known life, the physical body is only up till about 32, for as much as we know. What he says here at this age of 32, he echoes the same thing at the age of 5 or 6 in Kanakadhara, where exact bhavam of this shlokam comes out when he says, Gir Deva Deti Garudadhvaja Sundariti. You are the one there. Gir Deva is Brahmadeva. Gir Deva Deti Garudadhvaja Sundariti. You are next to Garudadhvaja. Garudadhvaja is Vishnu, the one who has Garuda as his flag symbol. Garudadhvaja Sundariti. There you are his wife. Shakham Bhareti Shashishekara Vallabheti. Shankara introduces a new goddess over here, but we'll come to her in a minute. Shakham Bhari will come to her. Shashishekara Vallabheti. Shashishekara is Shiva. Shashishekara Vallabheti. You are most dear to Shiva. Shakham Bhariti Shashishekara Vallabheti Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Kelishu Samsthitaye Tasye Namas Tribhuvaneka Gurostarunyai. The one who is present as Brahma Patni, Vishnu Patni, Shiva Patni, the one who is responsible for Srishti Sthiti Laya, the one who is the Guru for all these three worlds, who is beyond these three worlds, my salutations to her. Soundarya Lahari, Kanakadhara. The idea is not that you read this, and Kanakadhara, as you all know, is most famous because everybody wants to read it and wait for golden amlas to fall. The idea is when you start reading this, you realize there is such a flow of consciousness about Devi, such a flow of joy towards her, that same thing gets translated as Soundarya Lahari. Neither is confined just to one particular goddess. So this is an introduction into the idea of some swarupams that he talks about, with the ultimate reminder that she is no form at all. She is Mahamaya. If you look at the 9th and the 10th shlokam of the Soundarya Lahari, they talk about the growth of the Kundalini. They talk about the ascent of Mahim Mooladhare, from the one who starts from Mooladharam till Sahasrara Chakram. That Mahakundalini Shakti, you are that one. Shankara's objective is not to confuse. Shankara's objective is not to leave somebody wondering which one is this. Shankara's objective is that with the second you see the Devi in everything, the second you see Jagannatha in everything, that beauty will start reflecting in everything. When that beauty is reflecting at everything, you're in an ocean of beauty. When you're in an ocean of beauty, it's always flowing. Ocean of beauty, Soundarya Lahari. That is the basic idea of Soundarya Lahari. The idea is to appreciate her beauty in this universe. There is this pseudo-spiritual idea that, let's find God outside of this universe. I'm sick of all of these things around me. But the idea is to find her within this. That is what Soundarya Lahari takes us closer towards. And if that is an entry into Swarupam, then the Swabhavam is of a goddess who is so deeply compassionate that Shankara is very, very drawn to her compassion. There's a very sweet story about how Shankara, when he meets Madhura Meenakshi, this happens in Meenakshi, in Madurai, when he has darshanam of her, he's looking at her and he's very, very moved by that moment. And he's so moved by her, he keeps staring at her. Then Shankara thinks to himself for a minute, this is all Brahmadeva's fault. And she sees that thought and she says, what is Brahmadeva's fault? And he says, the fact that I unnecessarily have eyelids. If I didn't have eyelids, I wouldn't have to close my eyes even for a second, then I could keep looking at you. So she said, Papa, simply why you're blaming Brahmadeva? He did what he's supposed to do. But you're also thinking something else, Shankara. What are you thinking? So he says, I'm thinking, I am looking at you and I have to blink because that is the natural tendency of a human body. It's a requirement. But I've been observing you from that time. You have not blinked also one time. She says, Shankara, I'm deliberately not blinking for your sake. He said, no, you blink and show me now. She says, I can't blink. If I blink once, all of these worlds will go inside me. This is Unmesha Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhuvanavalihi. The one who consumes the worlds just by looking, the one who opens with second her eyes open, all of the worlds are recreated. This is the idea that Shankara was just so drawn to her eyes. Kanakadhara Stotram, first 9 verses are just describing Lakshmi's eyesight. Where does Lakshmi look? Who is Lakshmi looking at? Because the power of that aksham is so phenomenal in Shankara's world that he starts to take that and he says, these eyes only are everything, actually nothing else is needed. And he describes the eyes of the goddess with so much of intimacy that you start seeing and wondering, is he talking about Jagan Mata, who is beyond this world, or is he teasing his own mother? So he says in one very beautiful shlokam, he says, when you look at Shiva, you have only Shringara Bhava. When you look at any other man, you're repelled because you're a Mahapativrata. If you look at Ganga, you're actually a little jealous. All this is happening with her eyes, nothing else. She's just, in this shloka, it's as if Shankara is just catching an intimate moment between Shiva and Shakti. He says, when you look at Ganga, you're a little jealous. What is the jealousy about? Ask any lover, they'll tell you. Anybody else, irrespective of whether it's a platonic, non-platonic relationship, should not be allowed beyond the proximity. Where is this Ganga sitting on her lover's head? No way she's happy about it. Sarosham Gangayam. That you look at Ganga, you're thinking, okay, I don't particularly approve of this. But you also have wonder in those eyes. When do Shakti's eyes light up? When she hears Girisha Charite Vismayavati, when she hears anything about Shiva, when you tell her a story of Shiva, she's absolutely fascinated, saying, oh, tell me more. All this is happening through her eyes. And he builds up each of these bhavams so much to the point that he says, if you look at any other human being, you're no longer interested because you only want to keep looking at Shiva. But you have so much of friendship, you have such a gaze of love towards your friends, Sakheshu Smera. So all these, if you look, the Navarasas are hidden in her eyes. That's the bhavam here. You can put 8 rasas over here and 1 rasa is missing. Shankara's genius. He puts 8 ashta rasas over here, Shringara, of Hasya Rasam, all of these he puts over here. 1 rasa is missing, that is Karunya Rasam. Why is that missing? He says, take all this powerful drishti that you have, Te mai janani drishtissa karuna. Take that karuna drishti and look at me. Because if you look at me with that karuna drishti, I'm completely taken care of. So he takes the goddess out of this idea of an unapproachable, intimidating goddess who, if you do not fast for 9 days eating sabudana khichdi, she'll whack you. She has no such rules. She's just love. And that love, he says, you direct it towards me. For 1 kshanaparyantam, 1 second, less than a second, you look at me, Amma, I'm more than taken care of. This is her swabhavam. Her swabhavam is karunyam. And Shankara captures that story of her karunyam with so much effortlessness that he takes examples of people that we think are the most powerful in this world, in the realm of devatas. And he says, all these people are powerful only because of you. If Shankara had to do that, ordinarily he could have said, yes, Indra, you gave Indra his padavi, very good. You gave Agni his padavi, very good. You gave all of these people their respective statuses, yes. But he takes a particular form that actually has very contradictory weapons that really don't suggest much power. So he says, look at this person. Look at this person who has a sugarcane bow. This sugarcane bow, is it a sturdy bow? It's so flimsy, if you whack it a little bit, it will break. Okay, at least is the arrow string very firm? No, the arrow string is built with complete bees. It's a line of bees. Imagine trying to align 10 bees in the same plane for 1 second. So that is also not very sturdy. Okay, at least are the arrows very powerful, and are there some poison tip arrows or something that they'll go meet their mark? Nothing. It is 5 fresh flowers. By morning if you pluck them, by evening they'll go. Okay, at least does he have some companions who are very strong that you can vouch for him? Like many politicians themselves are terrible speakers or terrible administrators, but at least behind them there'll be a couple of, in their party there'll be some decent people around them. No, that is also not there. His friends are who? Vasanta, the Vasanta Ritu, the season of spring. How long is that fair weather friend for? 2 months in a year that guy is there. So your friend only is there for 2 months. That guy's friend only is not capable of being with him all year round. Okay, at least is he coming in some powerful limousine or something like that? He's coming on Malaya Marut Ayo Dhanarataha. His vehicle is a gentle breeze that comes just before the rain, not a storm kind of it's just a very gentle breeze. That is also powerless. But still, who is this person that we are speaking about? This is Kamadeva. Kamadeva is the one who has the sugarcane bow, 5 flower arrows. Kamadeva is always accompanied by Rati, who is his wife. He's always accompanied by Vasanta, who is the Ritu, and he's always accompanied by gentle breeze. You don't have to think mythology to think about this. You think of Bollywood cinema, you'll think of it. As soon as, or on daily TV soaps, anytime the heroine is in deep love, suddenly her hair is flying, even if she's indoors like this. That is the idea of the Malaya Marut, that breeze, that gentle breeze. So he says, all of these things don't suggest any power to me. But still this whole world says, oh my God, I have been shot by Manmatha's arrows, I have been shot by Kamadeva's arrows, I am a powerless lover. That powerless lover is the most powerful person in the world. Jagadiram Anango Vijayate, that the whole world is saying, oh, Ananga is the greatest. Ananga is the name of Kamadeva. He loses his body because Shiva burns him. So Anga is body, Ananga is the one who does not have a body. So he's celebrated as the most powerful one. Why? Because you gifted him those things. Because of your grace on him. There is a very beautiful story associated with this. I think we have the time to take this one as to Devi's Karunyam. That Karunyam that we spoke about, that we asked to be directed to us, why she directed it at Kama, and why Shankara makes a mention of this over here. The word Kamakshi itself has so much prominence given to Kama. There is a Kamakala Bijam, there is a Kameshwari Vidya, there is Kamakhya, there is Kameshwari. There are so many root words that form with that Kama that there is a Rahasyam hidden here. The story is very beautiful, and I think I have shared it on earlier accounts. So for those of you who have heard this, I ask you to indulge in it again, because it's a story that takes us straight to the heart of the mother's Karunyam. This story comes to us in Kanchi Vilasam, in Kamakshi Vilasam, I beg your pardon, where Kamadeva comes to Kanchipuram, to the Kamakoti Peetham, and he stands and he says, the whole world says that you give anything that they ask for, that she is Vancha, she gives more than Vanchitartha Dayaki. What you ask for, she gives 10 times that. But I am the only one who has not got what I asked for. So she says, what did you ask for? He said, you remember when you were born as Himagiri Tanaya, when you were born as the daughter of the mountains, at that time, I had come. I had come because the Devas sent me. I didn't come simply because I was free. Indra called me and he said, Parvati and Shiva have to get married, so please go and shoot an arrow so that Shiva feels some attraction towards Parvati, and this entire process is hastened a little bit. On 1.5x, we want to do it. That time, what happened? I got burnt. After that, what everybody started saying, oh, Kamadeva lost, Kamadeva lost. Now, anybody looks at me, that first of all, nobody can look at me. I don't have a body, number one. Number two, if they think of me, they also think, yo, Papa Kamadeva, so lost so much of power, Papa. I don't want this. And you tell me, is this fair? I came because it was dharma. I came because I came for a dharmic purpose. She listens and she says, Kama, you came for a dharmic purpose, no doubt. But the approach you had, when you came in front of Shiva, you thought, let me take my arrows and shoot it on this ascetic. Where is his asceticism? Where is my Kama? Let me show him my prowess. That is not dharma. You got paid only without any interest, just your principal amount. I returned to you over there. So you got paid for that. So you can't complain. But you still look unhappy. Ask me for what you want. That is Karunyam. Karunyam is not saying, you got what you deserve, now go back home. It is the idea of a mother. If she is not just a mother to the Punya Kotis, to all the people that are doing Punyam, she is mother to each of us who has Mishra Jivitam. It's not that our lives are devoid of any kind of papam. Maybe for 9 nights in the year we feel extraordinarily holy, but for the remaining time we are all also in Mishra Jivitam only. So her Karunyam is not restricted to one aspect of our lives. So she says, I agree. You feel bad about it. What do you want me to do? So he says, Amma, I also want to be known as somebody who defeated Shiva. You do something, no, so that I get that name. So she says, okay. Again, through her eyes, Te Mai Janani Drishtissa Karuna. With those eyes, she does something that nobody has or ever attempted to do before. In every Shivalayam, across Bharatavarsham, across Bhumandalam, wherever there is a Shivalayam, typically there is a shrine to Gauri as well, because she is Shiva's Ardhangini. As she just closes her eyes, she withdraws all of those Gauris inside her. So you go to any Shiva Kshetram, suddenly Gauri is not there. You go to Arunachalam, there is no Apita Kuchamba. You go to Kashi Kshetram, there is no Annapurna Vishalakshi. You go to Madurai, there is Sundareshwara, there is no Meenakshi. You go anywhere, you just don't see the goddess anymore. If we are only not seeing the goddess, the one who always wants to see the goddess is also suddenly getting up in Kailasa and realizing Gauri is not here. Because Vame Bhage Dayadra Himagiri Tanaya Chandanam Sarvagatre. She is seated here, always on his left lap. When he comes up from his tapas, he sees she is not there. So he goes to the first Kshetram in the mountains, Kedareshwara. In Kedareshwara, the goddess is known as Gauri. He goes to the Gauri Kshetram there, not there. He goes across the mountains, comes down to the Vindhyachala Parvatams, wherever he is. Goes to Mahakaleshwara, there's no Mahakali over there. He comes down all the way to Rameshwaram, there's no Parvatavardhini over there. Then he's wondering, what is happening? Where is Gauri? And he sees one Kshetram alone is glowing, and that is the Kamakoti Peetham. So he comes to the Kamakoti Peetham, and he stands at the base, at the tip, the threshold, where he sees Kamakshi. He sees Kamakshi, she also sees him. All the stories happening only through seeing each other. As soon as she sees him, he tries to step inside. And when he steps inside, he comes to embrace her, and she says, hello, what are you doing? And he says, I'm coming because I've been missing my Gauri. And she says, so? He says, I see you as my Gauri. Of course, I'm going to come to be one with you. She says, you are imagining that I am one amongst the trinity of Gauris. I am not Shiva Patni, Vishnu Patni or Brahma Patni alone. I am the source of all of them. I am that Gira Mahur Devim Mahamayam Vishwam Brahmayasi Parabrahma Mahishi. I am that Parabrahma's Mahishi alone. From me, Gauri comes, from me, Saraswati comes, from me, Lakshmi comes. You cannot come here and claim me to be one of them. So he says, but I'm burning with desire to see my Gauri. She said, what did you say? You said you're burning with desire to see your Gauri. That means Kamadeva has won over you now, no? At this point, Shiva smiles and he sees that a Leela is about to take place. At this same moment, Kamadeva is also here, hidden probably somewhere behind these pillars. Kamadeva is not looking at Shiva because once bitten, twice shy. No knowing what will get into that guy again if he just burns him down. So Kamadeva is standing and she says, Kama, come. Kama steps out from behind and she says, he is now burning with desire. Now is the right time for you to strike. You struck at a time when his mind was focused on tapas. Now when he is wanting to be with me, now is the time that you need to strike your arrow. Strike. So he says, no, I can't. His hands quiver. So she looks at Kamadeva, so much karunyam for that one child, just because his ask was that I should also receive that title of somebody who won over Shiva. She can say, fight your own battle, but she doesn't ever ask a bhakta to fight their own battle. She fights it with them. Sometimes she becomes an invisible force. Here, to support Kama, she creates endless manmathas from her eyes, and she says, this is your army, they will all shoot at Shiva. How many manmathas are there? How many Shivas? One Shiva is there, no? You will win effortlessly. And as soon as she does that, all these manmathas go and they all shoot an arrow at Shiva, and Shiva is burning with passion for Gauri. She says, you go now to Kamakshi Peetham in the northeast, go there and do tapas for Gauri. She will come back to you eventually. And then she looks at Kamadeva and she says, are you happy? He says, this is more than I could ask for. And she said, I'll make you even happier because you asked me for vancha samadhikam. This is the idea that you ask her for X. If your ask comes from sincerity, she will respond to it in a whole new dimension. She says, in this kshetram Kama, I will be so powerful and singular. Everybody will call this as a Shivajita kshetram. Kanchipuram is one of the few kshetrams, barring Tiruvannaikaval and a few more, where the goddess is very distinct from Ekamreshwara. The goddess is different from Purusha. What I mean to say is that if you go to Ekamreshwara shrine, there is no separate shrine for Kamakshi over there. It is only Ekamreshwara. Here she is the ruling goddess because she says, I want everybody to know that Shiva lost over here. So his Gauri, there's a reminder to this story, his Gauri will not be there in his temple. Several of you must be aware of the Ekamreshwara Kamakshi Kalyanam that happens in about March, April, typically corresponding to the English calendar. She gave a rule for that also. She said that Kalyanam can happen the same night of the Kalyanam, my Vigraham has to be brought back. I will not stay there at all. So it's an arrangement that she sets up just because one bhakta has an ask. That is the idea of her karunyam. That is the idea of her love, that it flows so effortlessly. But it's not just towards her children. It is equally towards her husband. And this is where Shankara brings it out. So this is the reason he brings it out. The idea of bringing Kama over here is to talk, he refers to this story just as a whiff. The idea is to remind the bhakta that that is the karunyam that he has. That is the karunyam that she has towards her bhakta, whatever state they may be. But her natural state, Shivasya Sahaja Dhruva, she is eternally inseparable from Shiva. She is constantly thinking about Shiva. If you read the Lalita Ashtotram, there is one very beautiful name there. It says, Nijabhadra Mukhamboja Chintanayai Namo Namaha. If you look at Kamakshi, or you look at any form of the goddess, when she is in the Prasanna Vadanam, when she is pleased, she is always smiling. And the Ashtotram says why? It says because she is thinking of her husband. That does not bring a frown to her face. It only brings joy. Nijabhadra Mukhamboja Chintanayai Namo Namaha. So I am doing dhyanam of Devi, who is doing dhyanam of Shiva. So in that sense, they're already connected. So that love is reserved for him. That love is so powerful between them that it overflows, and that's how Srishti comes. And that comes out in one very beautiful slokam where he says, Amma, I don't understand. The Devatas, look at this confusion. The Devatas have had Amritam. At the time of Ksherasagaram, such a big hullabaloo about churning the ocean and all of the Uchchaishravas, Airavata, Lakshmi, Varuni, Dhanvantari, everybody came. And finally what? They drank Amritam, no. But still, Sudhamapyasvadya Jara Mrityu Bhaya Harinim. These Devatas have had the Amritam that should take away any fear of the birth, of death, of fevers, of anything. But still, Vidhi, that is Brahma, is dying. Indra is dying. Agni is dying. Because they have cycles as well. Brahmadeva also has a cycle. Amongst the Trinity, Brahma is the only one who has a cycle. So when we call Shiva as Kapala Malika Dhara, the one who holds the Kapala Mala, every time Brahma finishes one cycle, he takes that Brahma's Kapalam and puts it over here. So Brahma is not free from the cycle of time. Narayana and Sadashiva are free from the cycle. Jagannatha is free. So he says, I don't understand. All these Devatas drunk Amritam. Okay, let's look at another case study. These people have had Amritam, they are dying. Let me look at somebody who drank poison. That guy should not be there, no. But that guy is there and he is staying beyond every kalpam. He is immortal. I don't understand this. But actually I do understand. Janani, Tava Janani Tatanka Mahima. You know why this is happening? This is the power of your earrings. Shankara's not just poetic genius. Shankara brings out two phenomenal facets of Devi Upasana over here. If you look at a married woman, as per Dharma Shastras, it is believed that a married woman's ornaments, there are 5 predominant ornaments that a married woman wears that protect the husband's long life. So one amongst them is said to be the Mangal Sutram, one amongst them is said to be the ears. Within this there are variations. Some say that there are toe rings, some say bangles, etc. But I'm focusing more on the Tattvam here. If you look at regional versions of the Bhagavatam, of the Srimad Bhagavata Puranam, there you will see the similar idea that everybody says that when he is about to drink that poison, he looks at her. It's only in TV serials that she panics and then puts off neck like this and all. Papa doesn't let him breathe. Otherwise, she's very chill. In the Bhagavatam, she's very relaxed about it. He looks at it, he's picked up all of the halahalam, and he looks at her and he says, what shall I do? And she says, drink it. And everybody around is surprised, saying, how is a wife okay with her husband about to consume poison that is consuming the worlds? He will go, no? But she looks and she says, Mangala Sutram Bunanta Madinam Binado. That is what the Potana Bhagavatam says. She says, my Mangal Sutram is very firm, nothing will happen, you drink it. And that idea, Potana says, is the power of her Mangal Sutram. So it says, may that Mangal Sutram that is protecting Shiva, may that Mangal Sutram protect all of us and bring Mangalyam to us. But Shankara doesn't say that. Shankara says, Tava Tatanka Mahima. Tatanka is the earrings. Here is where Shankara brings out a completely new aspect. If you look at the Lalita Sahasranamam, there's a very beautiful name over there that says Tapanodupa Mandala. The one who wears earrings that are the Surya and Chandra, that the sun and the moon are her earrings. What does this mean? Effectively, on this earth, the only 2 timekeepers for us are the sun and the moon. Either we follow Sauramanam, either we follow based on the movement of the sun, which is how we determine day and night, and we determine tithis based on the moon. These 2 alone are timekeepers. Anybody has a finite ending when they come into this world. But these 2 are the ones that determine that ending. That is why you have, towards the 83rd year of your life, you have something called the Sahasra Chandra Darshanam, that you are said to have seen 1,000 moons. So that is also, time is being kept by the moon over there. So in all these cases, he's saying that these 2 timekeepers, those are your ornaments. Ornaments means what? You are more powerful than the ornaments. You can put them when you want, you can remove them when you want. Those 2 things are so powerless in front of you. So naturally your husband is immortal because time has no effect on him. So that is only possible because you are Kaladhishtatri Devata. You are the one that is ruling over time. So it is not just describing the power of a earring and it's not becoming material for a Tanishq advertisement. It is the idea that all time is so firmly in your control that there is absolutely no reason for Shiva or anybody to fear. This is why a very beautiful question that you see in a work that is inspired by Shankaracharya in a regional version is an entire poem that says he is called Mrityunjaya, the one who is beyond death and who removes the fear of death. She is called as Nitya Sumangali, the one who is eternally a Sumangali, meaning her husband will eternally be alive. The question in every verse in that poem is very beautiful. It's in Malayalam actually, this poem. It says, every verse ends with the line, did he become Mrityunjaya because she is Nitya Sumangali, or did she become Nitya Sumangali because he is Mrityunjaya? She married somebody who will never die, so she'll always be a Sumangali, or he married somebody who is eternally going to be a Sumangali, so he became Mrityunjaya. So that idea of who is greater between them, we will never know. But that idea comes just as a rahasyam over here, saying, Amma, all time is in your hands. This is Mahakaleshwari. The idea that this is Kali Upasana that he puts in over here. Kali Upasana is not just a goddess who has a tongue sticking out at her audience. It is the idea of a goddess who is beyond any time. Time has no effect on her. Time is an ornament in her hands. And that ornament is just something that she plays with. You all know that very famous story of Abhirami, the goddess Abhirami. When a bhakta says he's so lost in her dhyanam, that when the king asks him what tithi is today, he says it's Purnima, when in reality it is Amavasya. And that night he's asked, saying, if it is truly Purnima, we will see Purna Chandra today in the sky. And everybody else wants to go out to challenge and to see and to prove him wrong. And that night suddenly they see a full moon glowing because the goddess took the earring that is Chandra and threw it into the sky so that it lit up for that bhakta. So that is the idea that she can reverse the course of time. She can change the course of time when a bhakta asks. She can change the course of time even when it comes to her husband because she is Shivasya Sahaja Dhruva. She is eternally inseparable from Shiva. So that is one more beautiful Swarupam of Devi that he brings out. And in the conversation of bringing out her love for Shiva, he says this love is also, where is it coming from? What is, when we think of Devi, a color that we very naturally associate with Devi is Raktavarna. Because everything about her, Sindhura Aruna Vigraham, she is Sindhura plus Aruna. That's two shades of red over there put into one Murti. Where is this red coming from? Red in a modern context is about traffic signals, it's about the color of blood and all of these things. But red has a very positive connotation in the idea of culture. We say Varnanam Adyam Lohitam. Amongst colors, red is considered to be the first color. Because the idea of red is about the idea of spandana. It is the idea of vibration. When Paramashiva, who is said to be detached from all of this world, who has absolutely no bearing, no interest to create, suddenly he says, I want to. That I wanting to do something is red. Red is the color of life. That life becomes Shakti. So when does he want to create? Shambhu creates only when he has compassion. When he feels that, oh, I want to engage. Ekoham bahusyam, Upanishad. When one me wants to become multiple, when one Shiva says, I will multiply, that comes out as energy. That white Shiva becomes red Shakti. If you understand this, you'll understand why in Shiva temples they'll give you Vibhuti as prasadam and in Devi temples they'll give you Kumkumam. It is a reiteration of this singular idea. That one idea, that one Karunyam comes out as that red. So Shankaracharya himself says this, Jayati Shambhor Karuna Kachit Aruna. Shambhu's Karunyam becomes Arunam. Karunam, Arunam. That is the idea that when you look at Devi's red, it's not a red flag. It is the idea of her absolute love. It is Shambhu's Karuna that you are worshipping. It is the idea of Navaratri is also tied to this, that you are worshipping Parameshwara's Karunyam. When you worship Parameshwara's Karunyam and you ask for it to be directed towards you, two things happen. One is you start living a life that is worthy of that look. Because if she looks at you and you're not even interested in that look, then she'll look somewhere else. She has 100 other places to look at. But if she looks at you and you're living with that, not dignity, but with that love towards her, she will take it and she will make that life meaningful for you. Shankara's heart is embedded in this idea. That how should I live? Shankara's shlokas are not, you give me this, you give me this, you give putran dehi, dhanam dehi. He's not too interested in all this. Not because he's a sannyasi, but because his idea is, don't keep asking. Look at yourself. Do vichakshana, look at yourself and think about what am I doing so that she has to look at me. And this comes out in the Soundarya Lahari, and you will see an identical shloka in this Shivananda Lahari that says, in Shivananda Lahari, it's very, very beautiful. It says, Manaste padabje nivasatu. Let my mind be focused on your feet. Manaste padabje nivasatu. Vachas totra phanitau. Let my speech always be singing your praise. Vachas totra phanitau. Karaucha bhyachayam. Let my hands constantly be worshipping you. Karaucha bhyachayam. Shrutirapi katha karnana vidhau. Let your story keep going into my ears. Shrutirapi katha karnana vidhau. Tavadhyane buddhir. Let my buddhi be used for your dhyanam. Tavadhyane buddhir nayana yugalam murti vibhave. May these two eyes of mine constantly see your form. Nayana yugalam murti vibhave. Paragranthan kairva paramashiva jane paramataha. If these things are in place, if my indriyas are only focused on you, I don't need a book. I don't need this particular Vedanta text that talks about this. I don't need this Upanishad Rahasyam. I don't need this Dharma Shastra. The only thing I need is for my indriyas to be connected to you. I don't have any requirement for anything else. This is the same shlokam in Soundarya Lahari that becomes Japo Jalpa Shilpaha. That wherever I see, let me see you. Wherever I hear, let me hear your story. Then I live a life that's worth you. And then you'll show me yourself, and you'll show me yourself how. And when she shows her Swarupam to Shankara, he is no longer a bhakta, unlike Arjuna. Arjuna in the Vishwarupa Sandarshanam is shaken by Krishna. He says, I cannot see the Swarupam, it's too intimidating for me. But when she shows Shankara, she shows with a very different eye because Shankara has asked. Arjuna also asked. But to receive that intimidation took over Arjuna. But with Shankara, he became so close to the goddess that she showed him, and when she showed him, he made a joke on her. The Soundarya Lahari also has some very beautiful moments where he's actually poking fun at her, and it gives a bhakta that reassurance that you can say whatever you want to her, she will not mind. But that comes with terms and conditions. You have to do all the other things for that to happen. Simply don't say anything and blame it on me. So over here, in this very, very beautiful shlokam, he says that when I look at you, you're completely red. We just said why. Because you are Shambhu's Karuna. But when I look at this red Swarupam, I'm very confused because everybody tells me Shri Shiva Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupeni Lalita Ambika. That Lalita Ambika, Lalita is the merging of Shiva and Shakti. Merging of Shiva and Shakti means what? 50% Shiva, 50% Shakti. Means 50% should be white in color, 50% should be red in color. Where is the white? Kanchi Kamakshi, full head to toe, he's seeing red in color because she gave him darshanam like that. Not that she's wearing a red sari and red blouse. The idea is she gives him darshanam like that. So he says, I'm wondering, you should be half white, half red. Then you're not Shiva because you're completely red in color. Okay, if you're completely red in color and you're not Shiva, you have one visible mark of Shiva. You have the Chandralekha. That belongs to him. So maybe you're Shiva. No. I don't think you're Shiva. Because you have Kuchabhyam, you have breasts, and you have Sakalam Arunabham, red color, which is yours. So I don't understand. Are you Shiva or are you? I think you're a thief who was given half the body, but you wouldn't keep quiet with half the body. You took the whole of body. You took Shiva into yourself. This is one of the most beautiful shlokas of the Soundarya Lahari, where the bhavam is that you're looking at the goddess, but the god is hidden within her. The idea that Shiva is inside her. You may not see him, but look at that is represented even in their iconography. What form does Shiva have? Lingakara Parabrahma. He does not have a form. He comes as a form whenever he wants to, but essentially he is Nirguna Nirakara Parabrahma Jyoti. Apatalana Bhastalanta Bhuvana Brahmanda Mavis Pura Jyoti. That's what Vedam is saying. That it is just Jyoti. But when the Jyoti takes a form, the Jyoti is there inside the form. That's why you're even able to see it. And this, once you see it, you'll wonder, is it him? Is it her? This is what happens to many, many bhaktas as well. And you can see documented experiences of it across books as well. That when they go to Kanchipuram, sometimes they will not see Shakti. They will see Shiva only sitting on the throne over there. Because the idea there is about she will show you whatever you want to see. She will show you what she wants you to see. And for Shankaracharya, the idea of poking fun is not only a lighter moment. It is to remind you of what is the very last shlokam of the Lalita Sahasranamam. Regarding the Lalita Sahasranamam also, there's a lot of discussion as to how come Shankara did not write a bhashyam on the Soundarya Lahari. Because if we look at his bhashyams on the Sahasranamams, we only see Vishnu Sahasranamam, he has written a bhashyam. The story goes that 3 times over, he asks his students, to one of his students, if I'm not wrong, this is Padmapada Acharya, that he asks him to bring the Sahasranamam so that he can begin the commentary. But all the 3 times he brings Vishnu Sahasranamam. So he assumes that, okay, I will write. And he writes a commentary on Vishnu Sahasranamam. So technically, we don't have a commentary of Shankara on Lalita Sahasranamam. But if you pick up Soundarya Lahari, you will see that all the ideas that are communicated in the Sahasranamam are communicated in Soundarya Lahari. Soundarya Lahari ends with the word Shiva Shaktya Yukto. Sahasranamam ends with Shri Shiva Shiva Shakti Ekya Rupini Lalitambika. Soundarya Lahari begins with Shiva Shaktya Yukto. So the links there, the Varnana, the description of Devi that comes Chidagni Kunda Sambhuta Devakarya Samudyata from Udyadbhanu Sahasrabha till Marali Mandagamana, all of those descriptions which go head to toe and describe, rather toe to head, because we are describing the goddess in this form as she emerged from the Chidagni, you will see all those descriptions are mirrored in the Soundarya Lahari. He takes liberties beyond Lalita Sahasranamam also. In the Soundarya Lahari, for example, in the Lalita Sahasranamam, there is a namam that says, the tip of your feet, where I will bow down and do namaskaram, looks like a kurma prishtha. It looks like the back, the shell of a turtle. Shankara asks in Soundarya Lahari, he says, is this fair for a bhakta to say this? I don't agree. Because they're saying that your feet are hard. I don't think so. Your feet are the most delicate feet. They're even more delicate than Parijata that has just fallen from a tree. I don't agree with Vashinyadi Vagdevatas. That is when it is not just poetry. It is such an anubhavam. Shankara's heart is not Anveshana. It is not the idea of find Paramatma, experience Paramatma. When you experience Paramatma, somebody may say, Devi's hands are hard. But when you come close to that, you'll realize, oh wow, it's only Karunya. Ask Ramana Dikshitalu, the Pradhana Archaka of Tirupati Venkatamana Swami. He will tell you that when he does Abhishekam on Fridays, he has felt the breath of Venkateshwara under his nose. You cannot take a microscope and go and try to analyze whether something is happening there. That is Anubhava. Whether it is happening on a physical plane or whether it is happening at a Manasikam on some other level. The idea of spirituality is that it opens up to different people differently. So for Shankara, it opens in this particular way, where when he sees the goddess, he says, I can take liberties, but those liberties are coming from my experience. They're not coming just because I want to be different. His idea is not to insult Vashinyadi Vagdevatas. The Sahasranamam is the most phenomenal treatise we have on Lalita Devi. But this is a way to say, Amma, you are in my Anubhavam, you are standing in front of me. When you're standing in front of me, I can make a joke, I can ask for your Karunyam, we can have any conversation, Amma, just because I love you. That I love you is the entire heart of Soundarya Lahari. And that comes out so powerfully that Shankara does not mind risking what a bhakta would otherwise risk. Because in the relationship between Bhakta and Bhagavan, there is always a degree of transaction. Most relationships, most dharmic practices are also based in transactions, even if we don't want to admit it. The entire idea of a yajnam is based in transaction. You give to a devata with the hope that the devata will give you something back. Kamya karma is also based on this. I will do this so that that happens. Nothing wrong in it. There's no need to put it down saying Kamya karma is wrong. But that transaction also becomes visible. So Shankaracharya talks about this. He says, when I look at other devatas, it's very clear to me what they are giving. If I look at Lakshmi Devi, I can see the Varadahastam, and in today's world, you'll see dollars also flying out of the Varadahastam and the Abhayahastam, because that's how the calendar prints are. So you can immediately make the connect as to what is she giving you. If I look at any form, I see that their hands are communicating or their hands are about to bless. But everybody who goes to Kanchipuram, everybody who comes to Jagannatha is saying she blesses. But where is the Varadahastam? Where is the Abhayahastam? They are not even, both her hands are very busy. Pon, at least when she's blessing her bhaktas, is she putting it down? No, we don't have a single incident like that. So he says with other devatas, they need to show their hands. This is Shankara's superlative. This is the tama, the greatest degree that he chooses to eulogize Kamakshi or his Ishta Devata here, that he says, other devatas require their hands to show what they can do, to show their power. For you, you don't need. Your 2 feet are enough. If you look at Kanchipuram Kamakshi, this is the one rahasyam of the Murti. When any devata sits in Padmasana, you will not see both the feet. That is, one foot will be hidden inside. In Kanchi Kamakshi, you can see both. He says, your Padabjam are your Varada and Abhaya Hastar for me. That transaction of whatever I want, the Varadam and the Varadam, Varada always points downwards, and the Abhayam, which is pointing upwards, both of them are your 2 feet. So your hands need not show themselves to me. So this is the level of proximity that starts to come in for Shankara, that it is such a fondness for the goddess that every part of her being, whether it is Kwanat Kanchi, where the entire anklet is moving, whether it is the Padam, whether it is the softness of the Padam, whether it is the color of the goddess, every part of her speaks to him so much that there is no goddess anymore. He has become one with that goddess. That is how Shankara moves into Advaita, that he says, love her till the point that you don't see anything but her. When you don't see anything but her, there's no you anymore. There's only her. This is Sakalam Aruna Abham, that only her Aruna and her Karuna comes out. So this is a basic idea of different aspects of her Swarupam and her Swabhavam that come out into the foreground through Shankara's works. Of course, as I said, there is no end that one can put on something like this. This is just intended to be a scratch on the surface, so that when we look at Soundarya Lahari is also a very interesting work because it is the intersection of Agama and Nigama. There is also several tantric references that come out here, and many of these shlokas are hardly even discussed in sabhas for the reason that they have certain mantras. There are many yantras also associated with Soundarya Lahari, as people know. There are certain prasadams that are encouraged for certain shlokas. There are certain shlokas that can give you very specific results. But beyond engaging with it in a transactional format, if one were to just pick up even one shlokam, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum, that this is Shankara's way of attracting the goddess's attention. We've shared this several times before, that if you want to catch her attention, you can say 1008 names, but the last name is what will catch her attention. Shri Shiva Shiva Shakti. Second you say Shiva Shakti, she's paying attention because you took her husband's name, which she's very, very fond of, so she turns. Same idea in Kanakadhara Stotra. You want Lakshmi's attention. You call her Mahalakshmi, call her whatever you want, she'll not respond. But you say Hari's name, she'll turn and you said my husband's name because she's Mahapativrata. Captures their attention. But Shankara is so close to her, the second he captures her attention and he says Shiva Shakti Ayukta, then he says, even Shiva is no good without you. But now she's already listening, no? You can say what you want. You caught her attention, no? Then she's a captive audience to you. Shiva Shakti Ayukta Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitu. Without you, even Shiva doesn't have any Shakti. That is the idea that comes out. It is not just a loose reference, it is a mantra rahasyam, that if you look at every devata, there is a Mula mantram that is associated with them. With Devi, with Shakti, the Mula mantram, one of the Mula mantrams is the bija Im. Im comes also in the Sri Suktam, as many of you would know, Tam Padminim Im Sharanamaham Prapadye. The one who is present as that bija akshara called Im, to her my salutations. This Im finds a reference in the word Shiva. It modifies itself from Im into Im, but if you take out the Ikaram from Shiva, Shiva becomes Shava. Shava is the word that we use for dead body. You take out Shakti, even Shiva becomes a dead body. Without Shakti, he is nothing. Take this into their visual representation. We said Shiva Kare Manche Paramashiva Paryanka Nilayam, the one who is sleeping on Shiva as a body. This is when you translate this into interpretations, what many people have said is that this is a later interpretation, that Kali standing on Shiva and Rajarajeshwari seated on Shiva are trying to, this is about Shiva reminding them about the power of the masculine. But it doesn't look, if you look at Rajarajeshwari, she doesn't look very intimidated by that power. Rather, he is looking at her saying, wow. Even if you look at Kali and Shiva, he is looking at Kali in absolute awe. This concocted story that, she was absolutely going crazy and berserk, and then he lay down in her path and then she put one foot on him. As I've said earlier, if she put one foot on her husband and she noticed by mistake and she'd stand there looking very embarrassed. She does not look embarrassed at all. She looks very happy standing on him. In both these cases, whether it is Kali, whether it is Rajarajeshwari, they are seated on the Hridaya Sthanam. Kali's foot is on his Hridayam, saying, I am his Hridayam Ra, what is he without me? We are both together eternally. This is the idea with which Shankara looks at her. That he says, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum. You are the Shakti that is coming out of him. You are that Karuna, you are that Mahima, you are that power. You are inseparable from him, but it is you. And it is you that is giving all this world its meaning. Yadi Bhavati Shakta Prabhavitum, Nache Devam Devo na Kalu Kushala Spanditum api. Without you, nothing will move, Amma. One breath I cannot take, because it is all you. Soundarya Lahari is beginning with this. This is not his concluding idea. He's starting only saying everything is you. And then he says, Nache Devam Devo na Kalu Kushala Spanditum api. But I'm telling you something. I'm giving a declaration. I'm giving a disclaimer right now in the beginning of the verse. Atastvam aradhyam. To worship you, some prerequisites are required. Some basic conditions need to be in place. Atastvam aradhyam harihara virinchadi bhirapi. Because you are worshipped by Hari, by Hara, your husband also worships you. Hari Hara virinchadi bhirapi. Brahma, Virinchi is Brahma's name. The Trinity is worshipping you. The Trinity and all others are worshipping you. Trinity only are worshipping you means everybody else under their respective departments is also worshipping you. Hari Hara virinchadi bhirapi. To worship such a goddess, I need something. Harihara Virinchadi Bhirapi, I need the punyam of my previous life. I need some punyam. Atastvam aradhyam Harihara Virinchadi Bhirapi. Pranam tum stotum va. To do one namaskaram to you. Pranam tum stotum va. To make one stotram to you, I need punyam. Pranam tum stotum va. Katam akrata punya prabhavati. I need so much of punyam. So it's a very proud statement, no? I need punyam to do this. I have punyam. This is what he's saying. But that would be us if we wrote it. It's not Shankara. Shankara is saying, look at the first verse, and this is when you have to join Shankara. You cannot look at works in isolation. You cannot look at stotras also in isolation. Shankara's first verse is, I need punyam to do namaskaram to you. So doing namaskaram to you is a punyam. So if you are all able to do Navaratri, you'll say, oh, how much punyam I would have done in my last life. And you can think, must have done lots. Doing full Navaratri, calling every day people for Golu. No, his idea, that is also becoming ahambhavam only. The idea is, if I have punyam, who gave me that punyam? Who is the one who gave? I did the karma, whatever the karma is. Who gave me the phalam? Because Bhagavad Gita, he's saying, Karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. I don't have any right over the phalam. I have only the capability to do the phalam. That is also your gift, but okay, if that is too much Vedanta, we'll keep that aside. I'm able to do the karma. I'm able to plant the seed. Am I getting inside the seed and say, excuse me, please grow? No, I'm not. Am I getting inside the tree and saying, please flower? No. All I'm doing is watering it. There is something inside it that is making it. There is something that is maturing a karma and giving it back to me. So even if I'm doing the karma, there is somebody that is giving me the reward for that karma. And in the last verse of Soundarya Lahari, he says, I'm doing a Neerajanam to you, I'm offering you an Aarti, but I'm wondering, with what light am I offering you this Aarti? This light is coming from you. Prakalpita Prapancha Prakashini, Prasiddha Guru Guha Janani, Muthuswami Dikshitar said, Prakalpita Prapancha Prakashini, the one who is engulfing all these worlds with her own light, Prakalpita, she has created them, Prapancha Prakashini, she is only filling the light. She has not created a world and said, 1 minute, I'll give you one Surya, you try this, have a switch, it'll work. No. She's saying, my light only is enough for you, da. That light only is coming to you. Yadadityatam tejaha jagad bhasayate khilam yat chandramasi yat chagnau tat tejo vidhimamakam. Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Soundarya Lahari. Any grantham you pick up, you can find a connection to Soundarya Lahari. He's saying, all of this light that I'm worshipping you with, this is your light. This is not my light that I lit with a matchstick separately. This is all you. If all this is you, then you're the one who gave me that karma phalam. If you're the one who gave me that karma phalam, you're the one who is allowing me to be close to you. You're the one that's giving me an opportunity to serve you. May this opportunity be something that takes me beyond Janma and Marana. May I find my residence at those feet. That is what he says in the very last shlokam, because he'll give you all the Dhyana Murtis. But to even visualize, that is why Soundarya Lahari is not an ordinary text. It is something that people have held on to and attained moksha. I know of somebody through a second degree of separation who chanted the Soundarya Lahari 64,000 times with one singular intent, that she should die when her husband is alive, and that happened to her. 64,000 times across a few days. And with absolutely no physical illness, this happened to her. So there are pratyaksha anubhavas of people, there are direct experiences of people who have been able to take this and use it as a moksha sadhakam. There is nothing wrong in using this for a transaction. If you want something, for example, the slokam that we spoke about, the Tatanka Mahima, that is a slokam that can be read when particularly a partner's life is in danger. If somebody is struggling with any kind of apamrityu dosham or is in the hospital or has had an accident, that slokam is powerful. There are every kinds of need is met within the Soundarya Lahari, but ultimately the purpose is to take somebody beyond. That is what Shankara wants. And when you go with that purpose, he says, Yatra Yatra Madiyam, wherever I bow my head, Tatra Tatra Tavaswarupam, let me see you. Yatra Yatra Shiromadiyam, Tatra Tatra Tavaswarupam, wherever I close my mind, wherever I close my eyes, let me see you. Wherever I bow my head, let your feet be there. Tatra Tava Padadvayante. And with that bhavam, when he closes Soundarya Lahari, it's not closed something. It's opened the Hridaya Chakram. It's opened the idea to it's opened the mind to the idea that, oh, the goddess is not somewhere there in Manidweepam. The goddess is lying in the Karunyam around me. The goddess is lying in those relationships that are nurturing me. She's there. The goddess is lying in my breath. The goddess is lying in the fact that I'm able to attend right now a session where I'm able to experience her in whatever capacity I'm experiencing her. That idea that the goddess has chosen me is one of the most powerful ideas. The divine, you call it goddess, call it God, call it nirguna, whatever you may. The idea that the divine has taken a particular interest in my well-being is shape-shifting in spirituality. Because the second one feels that, oh, the divine has an interest in me, I am no longer one amongst the population. I have been chosen, I am lucky, and that is the idea in the first verse. It is not, oh yes, I have so much punyam. It is, I am so lucky that I had a chance to do this. So the Soundarya Lahari begins with gratitude, it ends with gratitude, and everything in between is love, which is another name for gratitude. So with that, the hope is that as we foray through with this magnum opus of his work, we're able to engage with it, hear it. Some of the words in Soundarya Lahari can be a little tricky to pronounce, but there are beautiful renditions of this available online today. The hope is that as we go through that, we're able to look at not just Soundarya Lahari, but translate our own lives as movements. What is Soundarya Lahari, what is a constant pravaham, is the dharam in Kanakadhara. It is that flow of love. And that flow of love exists beyond texts, it exists beyond people's lives, it exists in our own experiences. So from Anveshana into Anubhava, from Aradhana into Acharana, from any outer experience into our own lives, the second, even a glimpse, even a whiff of that. If today we forget everything else and remember that, oh, Shakti took off half of Shiva's body, she's such a thief, that idea will come and protect us when we most need it. So may that goddess's grace on this very, very powerful night, which is one of the first night, the first night amongst 8 more powerful nights to come, may that goddess who is definitely present here, who chose to have us all and who chose to make this satsang possible both in person and virtually, may that goddess hold us through everything that life has to offer us, and may we realize that ultimately pranam, jivitam and moksham all are just different names of experiences that she gives us. With that, offering gratitude to the hosts of this place, Jyotsnaka, for making this happen. As I said in the very, very beginning, I would have never imagined that I would speak on Navaratri. I thought it was a time for me to sit with myself, but Bala would not allow that. She wanted to come today, and she wanted to come for all these people that are meant to hear this. What is Soundarya Lahari for one person is Sundarakanda for another. What is Soundarya Lahari for one person is Sri Chakra Archana for another. What is Soundarya Lahari for one person is Bombay Golu for another. It is just the idea of the same love that keeps changing form, and may those changes and those waves protect the people of this space and all the spaces that we all dwell in, offering this to the feet of the one who is there in Kanchipuram, whose feet are Varada and Abhaya. Sarvam Shri Jagadamba Padaravindarpanamastu Swasti.